What are the finances like in Brazil, from at least from what you can see? You already mentioned it was more expensive to get around South America than it was in Eastern Europe due to the infrastructure. But what about other things like rent or food or going out? How does that work out?
Okay, well, let me go ahead and mention this. Since I guess mid 2000, or actually late 2014, after the World Cup, till about now, like the Brazilian currency has devalued by 75% against the U.S. dollar.
Damn.
At one point, I think in mid or late 2015, which is like only several months ago, the Brazilian real devalued by 100% against the U.S. dollar. So, like a good $10 lunch would be $5 lunch. Would be like a $5 lunch. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And it's something that affected, I guess, like just about everything. I think inflation is sort of caught up now, so everything's a tad bit more expensive. But as far as living is concerned, it's really hard to get your own apartment here in Brazil. It's very hard to get your own furnished apartment. You have to go through a service, and I'll probably mention it on the forum, but you go through a website where you find people subleasing furnished rooms. I was really lucky to find my apartment because I don't live alone, by the way. There's a lady that lives downstairs, and she like subleases like the upstairs of her like loft to me. So I'm like subleasing from an older lady, and it can hurt for a game because I can't have like big parties at my place or anything like that. But I can have groups of people over. I can bring girls over. Yeah, that's always nice. And cost-wise, I think I'm paying. This is normally. I guess this would be like if it was early 2014. Like the sublease would be $650 per month, but right now I'm paying like $400 a month due to the devaluation of the Brazilian currency. So that's really good for me. I mean, I was originally supposed to move to Brazil, I think, sometime around late 2013, early 2014, but I'm glad I never did that. I came at the right time. Since everything is sort of built around night game here, you're going to be going out quite a bit. There's great nightlife. Sunday, what's it called? Yeah, Thursday through Sunday, there's great nightlife. And then Tuesday nights are really good too. The only dead nights here in Curitiba are Mondays and Wednesday nights. Those are the two nights where nothing is going on, but there's plenty of nightlife opportunities here. A lot of places have cover charges. So, let me think. Yeah, so I mean, it would, like a lot of cover charges that were like even $50 to get into a club, but even before drinks. Well, now there's only like $25 cover charges, so it can be quite expensive going out here.
Yeah.
Definitely. You'll come out with like an $80 tab, easily an $80 tab that I would have paid in the past when visiting Brazil for the first time is now like a $40 or $50 tab. So. It can be pretty expensive living down here. I think cost of living, like apartments and whatnot, are cheaper, but going out can be very expensive out here. And especially in a city that's, built around gastronomy and nightlife like Curitiba, there's really not any, I mean, it's good, there's a lot of cool outdoorsy things you can do, but there's no, like, really pickup opportunities along the beach because, I'm in a landlocked city with no beach.
Right, gotcha. Yeah, that's interesting. I guess it's an interesting contrast because in Poland, generally social circle and then day game are the ways to go. Like night game is generally something that is generally a kind of a low investment opportunity here in Poland, and I guess the reason for that is a lot of Polish people. They don't have their disposable incomes are still low by Western European standards certainly, and so if they do parties, it'll usually be a house party, which is cheaper to throw. And so in order to meet most of these girls, you'll need to do either social circle game or day game. And if you do night game, yeah, you can do it at Sopo, but like Rouge Road, when you go to Sopo, you basically end up there and you're like, wait. Like, yeah, the girls, it basically feels like you're back in the West when you're in Sopo night gaming. Like, you just get the same bitch shields and, like It's like, whoa, what the? It's like, well, I thought I was in Poland. Wait, what? Yeah. So it's that's very interesting that the kind of the contrast there. So I guess if guys want to do night game abroad, it sounds like at the least like where you're at is more of a place to go rather than certainly than Poland.
No, definitely. I mean, I would say night game and social circle game are very big here. You can definitely get numbers through day game, and you can get numbers and dates through day game, but it's not going to yield the results that night game and social circle will bring about. Will bring. So
gotcha. That's a very good tip. I don't think that's probably not emphasized a lot on the forum, or at least in terms of like what type of game works in certain regions. Like a lot of guys will take certain game that works in certain places and they'll try and use it in other places, and they wonder why. Like, oh no, this place is terrible because the specific game that I developed for the West or wherever doesn't work here. This place therefore must be terrible.
Right.
Like, so, no,
definitely. And I want to say, like, at least in my city, I mean, I'm not really, despite like doing research down here and finishing my my Portuguese studies, I'm not really like on a college campus. I'm like in a satellite building, so I'm kind of far away, from like a lot of the college campuses. So like, spending like 3 or 4 hours of my day getting to and from like a college campus just to game there is I don't know. I have way too many things to accomplish on a daily basis to go to a college campus every day. So.
Yeah, and college campuses are the, at least here in Poland and probably all over the world, college campuses are among the best places to do day games. So yeah, if your logistics don't let you get to a college campus, day game does get a bit harder. I know even here in Gdansk, my day game definitely improved when I switched to the universities here as opposed to Sopot or the malls in Gdansk, just because you get that college demographic, which is better on pretty much a good chunk of levels.
Right. No, definitely. And I think one of the advantages of you living in Poland is, at nights, like you'll have groups and packs of friends that might even like, after a night of clubbing, they'll take public transportation back. They'll take a night bus, back home. And that sort of thing doesn't really, I mean, it's available like in most major Brazilian cities, but it can be also dangerous too. It can be really dangerous. So, like justifiably so, girls like without cars, they won't want to come back to your place like late at night, or they won't want to visit you like via taking a night bus around 9 to 10 p.m. So you'll have to schedule a lot of dates for like weekends during the daytime, or if you want a girl to come over, without any alcohol or night gaming involved, it would have to be the weekend. So trying to set up dates on weeknights here, it can be kind of difficult, especially since a lot of girls, they'll work full time and then take part-time classes, or they'll work part-time while taking full-time classes. And I think that's different from Europe, because a lot of people in academic programs in Europe, they usually go to school full-time while doing part-time classes. But in Latin America and the U.S., you have a lot of people that will work full-time during the day while taking nighttime classes. And that sort of thing doesn't seem to be as common in Europe, right?
Yeah, let's see. In Europe, the students will they'll go to school, as I understand, they'll go to school full time, and to support themselves, they'll work part time. It's a different strategy. Yeah, they won't. Night classes here generally, they don't seem to be as popular especially from my day gaming experience. Like most of the best times to day game have usually been before lunch or after lunch, before the 3 o'clock rush hour ensues, because then once the 3 o'clock rush hour ensues, they're all off going to work, or they're going back to study, or so yeah, it's definitely different. And it's also you bring up a good point too, the difference, some good info for folks that are looking to go to South America. I know you always hear that safety is an issue, but to hear it to hear how it affects the dating is definitely a good pointer, because here at least in Gdansk, yeah, you can go ahead and employ the game where you do your dates on the weekdays because you don't want to tip off the girl that you have nothing to do on weekends. So you purposely schedule your dates on the weekdays and she can take public transit back no problem during the weekdays. And yeah, the safety issues aren't really, they're not there, at least here in Gdansk and a bunch in good parts of Europe, I would imagine.
That's exactly the point. And I will at least say in my city, Curitiba, it's known for having like the highest. A lot of people do have cars here. There's actually 1.5 cars like for every person here, and not only that, but you have a lot of people. But there's still a lot of people without cars. And there's a lot of rich people here that have like multiple cars per household, etc., etc. But another known fact here is that Curitiba is also the city with the highest number of gym memberships, or like actual physical gyms, per 3 or 4 people or something like that. I can't really explain it right now. Sorry, I'm getting over a head cold. But so a lot of people will, after work, if they're not taking classes at night or whatnot, they will go to the gym. So there's a lot of really like amazing bodies down here. A lot of chicks have plastic surgery, which I'm not against. But a lot of people love to work out at the gyms, like after a long day of work, and after the gym sometimes they'll be really tired. So that's another factor that can be hard in trying to schedule dates on weeknights. And a lot of people here also study for government positions. While they're studying for government positions, they have full-time jobs. So they have full-time jobs in the private sector, but once you get a government job here in Brazil, you're kind of set for life in terms of upward mobility. Yeah, no, it's very true. So I mean, you're kind of set for life, and in terms of benefits and salary, you have built-in upward mobility. A lot of vacation time, and you'll be set. So yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you a question that kind of to change topics here. You're pretty much fluent in Portuguese, and you've only been there for about a year. How did you manage to become this proficient with Portuguese in such a short amount of time? Did you study beforehand? Like, how did you do that?
No, I definitely did study beforehand. I took a 5-month Spanish course at a community college, and then I was invited to another 4-year college via grant to take this intensive Portuguese class, and I was really grateful to have taken the class. So it was an 8-month class back in Texas that covered about 2.5 or 3 years worth of material crammed into 8 months. We had classes like 6 hours a week.
Whoa!
And it was one of... What's that?
Whoa! Yeah.
Yeah. So, I was able to do that. Learning Spanish was, I will say this, learning Spanish is it's a lot harder than Portuguese. I did Spanish first for 4 or 5 months. It was like, it wasn't an intensive course, it was a really slow course. But after that 5-month course in Spanish, I became totally fluent in Portuguese right after that. And then I switched back to Spanish for another like 3 or 4 months. So, I can hold my own in both languages. So, but my Portuguese is exponentially better than my Spanish. I will say that Portuguese has harder pronunciations, but the grammar is a lot more efficient. The verb conjugations are a lot easier. The grammar is also easier to understand. And with regards to Spanish, it's a language that's very prideful. It maintains a lot of its traditions, a lot of its outdated expressions. And just like the order of sentences, the structure of sentences, the grammar, order of wording is a lot more complicated.
In Spanish than in Portuguese.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah. I'm curious because I've been devoting about 30 to 45 minutes a day just to learn Polish. I figure why not? I'm here. Might as well learn enough Polish at least to. If I get into a spot, at least I'll be able to, not be a complete mute, so to speak.
Oh, no, definitely. And I think, I think for me, I already have failures learning languages. That's especially true in French. I studied French for 3 years in high school, didn't absorb any of it. And I tried as an adolescent and as a college student with Mandarin, and that didn't quite come about. But I will say this, I'm definitely much more of a visual learner. If I sit in a library reading a textbook and writing sentences and learning grammar that way, it's a lot more effective than me just sort of, sitting and listening to tapes. Because even in English, if you tell me one thing, it's likely going to go through go out through the other ear. So, I'm definitely more of a visual learner. And in Mandarin, there's obviously no alphabet. There's more than 4,000 random
Right.
characters. Yeah, so that's it's one of those things that didn't quite work out for me. I can still sort of communicate with my relatives, in Mandarin, but but if I wanted to send like a text message or like post a Facebook message in Mandarin, well, that's just not going to happen. So.
Yeah, it's interesting because I guess guys have to experiment with different learning styles. Like I thought I was a visual learner, but in terms of learning Polish, I've actually found that doing Pimsleur and Michel Thomas, like not just listening but also like trying to answer the questions while the tape is playing, I find myself using those lessons I learn more than the Duolingo stuff that I do where you just type in the stuff and it's more of a reading and writing. Like I think Duolingo is great for reading and writing, but in terms of for at least listening and speaking, like Pimsleur and Michel Thomas has been more helpful, at least for me. I guess partially maybe because I might be more of an audio person myself, having a musical background.
No, definitely. Like even if you are a visual learner, you still need to, you still actually need to live somewhere to listen to slang, to learn how people, break the formal rules of, the formalities of language properly.
Mm-hmm.
You learn the rules so that you know how to break them properly in different types of situations. And listening is obviously very important. There's three aspects. I've heard there's three aspects of learning a language, and that would be the family aspects, because you have your family slang, and then you have your the business and academic slang, and then you've got your social slang. So those are the three aspects of learning a language. Like the family part, the family aspect, the professional and academic aspect, and then the third would be social.
Gotcha. And then I guess relating it back to game, so you were fairly proficient when you got down there, but did you make an effort to game in Portuguese? I guess being in Latin, especially as I understand it, being in South America, like it's practically a requirement that you speak either Spanish or Portuguese to get anywhere down there, or in contrast to here in Poland, where I get by with English, sadly.
No, there's nothing wrong with that. When I everywhere else it's English for me, but in Latin America it's got to be Spanish and Portuguese. And I think one of the reasons why I learned Portuguese was because after 2 trips to Europe, I thought about maybe visiting Brazil, and I knew that the English levels were always really kind of bad down here. So my first trip was in 2012. And I was in the middle of my Portuguese class, and when I came down here, I realized, hey, I can definitely hang. So, so I always had great, Spanish and Portuguese resources and training when I was living in Texas. I would always, outside of my formal studies, I would go to mixers for young professionals where people would, speak Spanish and Portuguese. And during those luncheons or mixers or whatnot, I would meet a lot of native speakers from Portugal and Brazil. So that's it was definitely great practice before moving down here and visiting Brazil 3 times. 3 times before in gaming, chicks in only Portuguese. That that kind of helped matters a lot. And but no, it was definitely not a waste of time. I'm getting closer to graduation as a result of my time here. in Brazil, and I got to finish my formal Portuguese studies, where I picked up some certificates that are equivalent to, like a college major in Portuguese. And obviously, when you finish undergrad, you can't really go back and well, you can go back and pick up another major, but it's really not worth the time and effort and money.
Right.
You're better off just just moving abroad and having that experience on your portfolio, because being able to live abroad, make contacts and connections, and live a life in a foreign country, there's definitely it's a priceless experience. It's something I wouldn't trade for anything else. Nice.
Yeah. I think, for me, being here in Poland, it's kind of sad that English is widespread, because it's obviously easier for them to, at least with their English levels, it's easier for them to communicate in English than it is for me to communicate in Polish. So, somewhat ironically, when I went to Lviv for my border run, in Lviv, the situation is very different. The English levels are drastically lower, even lower than in Kiev, where the English is only like 20% of your young girls will speak English. So in Lviv, they were pretty low. But knowing Polish, which is mutually intelligible with Ukrainian, I was actually able I actually used my Polish more in Lviv, Ukraine, than I did have used it in Poland. So I guess if there's a tip out there, it's like, hey guys, if you want to learn Polish at least in a big enough city, go to Lviv, Ukraine.
Wow.
Just because you won't encounter any English speakers.
Yeah, because there's not enough English speakers, and I think Lviv used to be a part of Poland, right?
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lviv is also very... Sorry. I'm going to interrupt you there. Lviv is also very interesting because it used to be also part of the Austria-Hungarian Empire, so its German name, or a name in the German language, is Lemberg. And so it has this very interesting history. When you walk around the city, it has this kind of like German, Polish, Ukrainian feel to it. So it's not what you would expect out of a city in Ukraine. So I think every time I go there, I think like, if the English levels were better here and people knew about this place would, and they knew about the amenities here and how cheap it is, this place would probably be the next Prague in like maybe 5, 10, 15 years. This will be the next Prague if more things came to it. Now, I've never been to Prague, though. I've heard Prague is very beautiful. It's a very large city. I've definitely got to get myself to visit out there, so I don't know if the comparison is even valid, but just want to give a shout out to Lviv there, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely on my list if time and money permit. So but I will say, like, I guess the big difference between Latin America and other parts of the world is English is definitely the global language. It's the common denominator language. If a guy from the Netherlands wanted to make a business transaction with a guy from Germany, guess what language they would be speaking?
English.
Yeah, if a business person from Japan or South Korea wanted to make a transaction with somebody from Thailand, the language would be
English.
Yeah, there you go. And I guess in Latin America, it's different because English is really not the common denominator language down here. I think people in Spanish-speaking countries, they just sort of keep to themselves. Or, people from Brazil, they don't really deal a lot with Spanish speakers. But when they do, they just sort of have to learn each other's languages instead of, communicating in English. So I guess that's the big difference between Latin America, Asia, and Europe.
Interesting.
And that English is not the common denominator language down here.
Interesting. So wait, backing that up though, on what you said, is Spanish not a common denominator language in Brazil? Because I know they're related languages, but are they mutually intelligible to each other or not? Like if you go down to Brazil and you start speaking Spanish, are people going to be like, what are you saying? I have no idea.
Oh, definitely. I think Portuguese speakers have Portuguese speakers in Portugal and Brazil. They would have a harder time understanding Spanish speakers if they spoke Spanish. But I think Spanish speakers would have an easier time understanding what native Portuguese speakers would be saying. So, there is a big mix though, because if a person from Brazil wanted to actually move to a Spanish-speaking part of Latin America to do business or whatnot, they would go there to learn Spanish. And you have quite a few people that do that. And then there's a lot of people from Spanish-speaking countries that want to do business in Brazil. So they would go to Brazil and learn Portuguese accordingly too. So, and that's the way they do things instead of just conducting transactions solely in English.
Gotcha. Okay, that's interesting. So I guess you can't. So that if there's one takeaway for guys out there, it's that if you're going to study Spanish or Portuguese, you're not going to be able to interchange the languages. You'll certainly get some commonalities in learning them, but I guess it's not going to be like, say, if you learned, like in my example, where I'm learning Polish and I was able to use my Polish in Lviv, Ukraine, but even though they speak Ukrainian, it was still mutually intelligible. I guess that's not the experience that you will find in Latin America between Spanish and Portuguese, is what you're saying.
It can be mutually intelligible. No, there's a lot of similar cognates. There's a lot of similar pronunciations and whatnot. I think you can definitely get away with it. But if you want to go deeper, into a conversation, or if you want to go on a date, or if you want to get into deeper discussions, or build stronger friendships, or all that other jazz, it's going to be a lot harder to do.
Ah, gotcha. Maybe I'm just not at that level in Polish yet to have that experience in Ukraine. I see. It could be the case.
On the surface, Spanish and Portuguese are very similar languages. As you go a little bit deeper, though, you'll realize that there's there's a wide array of differences, but there can be also a wide array of similarities too. So.
Gotcha.
Yeah.